Well, good afternoon, Fort Wayne, and welcome to another edition of Fort Wayne Up Close. Hey, it's like the saying says, if it's nice, let's go ahead and do it twice. I'm running this back. We just sat down with my brothers from Coastal. Now I get the opportunity to sit down with one of my brothers, my big brother from Pittsburgh, and sit down and talk. Again, we're going to drop a little knowledge. We're going to share some stories, and we're going to have some fun. But this brother definitely has a story to tell. I want you all to welcome Mark Lay to the set. Mark, great having you.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here in Fort Wayne.
All righty, my man. Hey, another adopted son, as you guys can see. We continue to roll out this content. We just been blessed to have folks come to Fort Wayne. I mean, hey, we're a magnet for great people. People come and spending time. And I also want to give a shout out to my mother, Joyce Graham Coates. Hey, she won't allow us to say her age, but I'm going to tell you, she's been around for 8 decades. How about that? You do the math. Mark is in town. That's how great a guy he is to celebrate and share with my mother. But Mark, tell the people who you are. I know who you are. And we in Fort Wayne, you hang around and you've been, you hit the Legion a couple of times with some of the other little establishments, but tell everybody who you are.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say about your mom, because that is the reason why I'm here today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on the podcast. But your mom, during some of the darkest days in my life, she was there for me. When I say she was there for me, not only physically, but spiritually, because she was praying for me, and I knew it. And that's how I was able to get through some of those periods. A little bit about me is that I've had some really high highs in my life and some low lows. But through it all, through perseverance and faith and staying true to my cause, I've known life has been great, and I consider myself successful. Growing up in a small town right outside of Pittsburgh called Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, real big football town, but we played basketball too. So the Foster brothers, I know you guys know something about basketball. We played basketball too. I was fortunate to get several offers and ended up going and playing in the Ivy League, played Division I basketball. From there, I went to the street, worked on Wall Street, bond trader, foreign currency trader. Great career.
Hold on 1 second though. Y'all heard that? He said I went to the street. Wall Street. Okay, now go get back to that. That's funny, but yes.
Yeah, and was able to trade, started my own firm in the late 90s. Started with no assets, grew the firm to over $4 billion. The NBA players' pension was one of my clients. Had 20 of the 50 states, every major city in the country, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, all DC, all clients of mine. Many major corporations, Boeing, Sprint, Raytheon, they were all clients. So, we were able to really grow this business and make a name, not only for myself, but for the company. With that said, that was the high highs.
Gotcha. Okay, now before we go any further, I already know where you're going. And you're right. You didn't talk about your high highs. You talked about your low lows. You talked about my mama praying for you. So we're going to get to all that. Before we get to that, let's roll it back. Mm-hmm. You were in Aliquippa. Like you said, you was balling. You went to Ivy League school. You done talked about all these major corporations. You handling finances for all these different states and things. I mean, so what kind of student were you in high school?
When I was in high school, my grades really didn't matter to me. I wanted to play basketball. That's all I really wanted to do. But thank God I had a mother who was like, listen, you can play basketball, but you're gonna get good grades. And good grades for me meant A's.
Yeah.
A B wasn't a good grade for my mother. A C was totally unacceptable. So if I got a C, I wasn't playing basketball. So I got straight A's just because my mother said that's what I had to do in order to play basketball, which is what I really wanted to do. Okay. So for me, I tell people that all the time, education is very important. But the motivation and the drive behind that education is more important than the actual education. So my mother was the one who made me get good grades so I could hoop.
Hey, I love that though, because again, we talk about good old school values, and you just said it. Hey, your mama said you gonna get what you are potentially capable of getting. Not no B's, not no C. You wasn't just gonna be eligible. You gonna work up to your potential, and she held you accountable. Not enough parents, not enough people do that. modern day. So I love hearing that.
And she looked at me as an individual too. So she said, Mark, I expect you to get A's. My sister, she said, a B is good for you if you apply yourself. No, no. So she understood, where I was in life, and she made those demands on me. My father had died early in my life. He had cancer, and so it was just me and my mom. So I had to grow up, but I still had living under her roof, like Miss Joyce. You play by her rules.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
And so honestly, it's funny listening to you talk. It sounds like you see a lot of your mother in Miss Joyce.
She's my mother. Your mother is my mother.
There
That
you
is
go.
my
So
mother.
yeah, you just said that because those are a lot of the same values and traits, and I can attest to it. I know exactly what you're saying. But so you was good enough. You went to the Ivy League. You had the grades. You told us about your business dealings and all that stuff. Man, talk to us about some of your teammates, some guys you played against, some of the connections you were able to build and form.
Playing in the Ivy Leagues. People think, it's not competitive basketball for some reason. I mean, but the reality is on my team, I had Richie Gordon. Richie Gordon played at Boys High in Brooklyn. Richie, coming out of high school, one of the top 10 basketball players in the country. Could have went to Virginia and played with Ralph Sampson, and he hit numerous offers. Ended up going to Columbia. We played together. Darren Burnett, all city, New York City, first team, Columbus High School, had St. John's when the Big East was the Big East, all those offers. He ended up going to Columbia. So we had some really, Eric Clark was from Hollywood, California, just jump out the gym. So, we played at a very high level. So we played the St. John's every year. When they had Walt Berry and Mike Moses and Mark Jacksons and Chris Mullins and all those. So we played them every year. We played Georgetown, Pat Ewing and all those guys. So our schedule was very, very competitive.
Okay.
And so for me, playing basketball is something I love to do. The thing that Columbia taught me was there was a world outside of basketball. So when I got there, Ivy League didn't mean anything to me, but the connections and the people I met made me realize, oh my God, it's a whole world outside of basketball. Basketball is a means to an end for me. I wasn't big enough. I'm 6'3", but back then I weighed 160 pounds, 175 pounds by my senior year. I wasn't big enough to play at the next level. Had the athletic tools, but just didn't have the physical attributes. But I used basketball as a means to get to where I wanted to go.
We love that. You reinforcing the message that we often talk about, on our set. But again, those contacts, you got like a who's who list of guys that you played against or with that now you've done business with or you come across them in the business world. Man, share with some of these guys that
right.
you know.
First of all, for 2 of my 4 years at Columbia, Barack Obama was there. Okay. So Obama went to school with me. Butch Graves, who played basketball at Yale, they own Black Enterprise magazine. John Rogers, who was at Princeton, owns Ariel Capital, which is the largest African-American mutual fund company in the world. Craig Robinson, who is Michelle Obama's brother, who was at Princeton, was probably the best player in the entire league, is an NBA executive. He's a coach at Oregon, and he's done quite well for himself. Arnie Duncan, who was at Harvard, ended up being the Secretary of Education under Barack Obama. Was a tremendous basketball player, 6'8". He could ball as well. So within the scope of basketball, like I said, it's very competitive, but the context and contacts and the people that you met outside of basketball was able to propel you and take you to a whole nother level. I used to tell people, the people who I worked for on Wall Street during the Jordan era in the NBA and Barkley and those guys, they were making $6, $10, $20 million a year. Those guys would have committed suicide if they made $20 million a year because they was making hundreds of millions of dollars a year back then.
Yeah.
They were billionaires back then.
Yeah. So I got exposed to something growing up in Aliquippa that I didn't know anything about. But it was able to, basketball was the tool that was used for me to open my eyes to a whole nother world. Yeah, and again, you touch on something. You got guys and again, yours truly. I was recruited by all Ivy League schools,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandfather used to look at that and was like, his word was Jesus. I can't believe you ain't interested in going there. And I had no idea because I made the stigma. Hey, and I'm like, okay, am I really smart enough to go there? Can I really get there? But then you got guys that you think that you have to go to a regular 4 year and got aspirations to go in the NBA, just like what you're talking about, where they're gonna make millions of dollars or whatnot. When really you go to an Ivy League school and the connections and what you get, your first job coming out, might be as much as guys as playing professionally might make. So
That's a fact. I mean, I came out of out of college at 21 years old, making six digits. So I mean, it was, and as I progressed in my career, money was never the obstacle because I could always make money as much as I wanted to make. So I was able to use my platform in the financial markets to try to use financial literacy and educate others and expose some of us to stocks and bonds and things that we'd never heard of, foreign currencies. Now you got cryptocurrency, you got all kind of stuff. So my fact, growing up, Miss Joyce or my mom, Annis Lay, wasn't able to teach me about stocks and bonds because they didn't know anything about stocks and bonds. But my kids should know, and my kids should know, there's no excuse for me not to share that knowledge. So I use that then as a platform.
okay,
So
got
it
you.
wasn't about money.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Again, that's another thing. We do a segment of financial literacy. We have a podcast that we coming on, 2 times a month. We're
Cool.
doing workshops. To your point, if I had a nickel for everybody said, this stuff that nobody ever told me, but it's a cultural thing. A, our folks didn't know, and then B, a lot of times we know we just didn't. They didn't share with their kids for whatever reason.
I mean, and you think about it, I always use this analogy. If I can go out and buy me some Jordans and they cost $150, right? In 6 months after wearing them shoes, how much are they worth? Every kid in the classroom gonna tell me they ain't worth nothing. After a year, they ain't worth nothing. My feet grown too big, they dirty, whatever the case may be. If I go out and buy Nike stock and say the stock is at $40, and in 5 years from now, that $40 stock is worth $300, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I have something of value. Those shoes are gone. I bought those shoes trying to look cute and showing my little swag, but those shoes are gone. They have no value. The stock, the assets, the investments, they continue to have value well into your future. So I try to use that analogy to people because we're so consumer driven, so worried about how I look now and spending that money instead of taking that money and letting it work for you so that you can have a future.
Yeah, that's all about changing the perception, though. That's
Yep.
that's a perspective that you just put on that, and
Yep.
and a lot of people don't have that perspective. But that's great that you out there doing what you can, and like I said, we're doing everything that we can to try to change the perspective of folks, and just give them a different way of thinking through things. Okay, now we're gonna switch gears a little bit again. We've got your logo up here. This is actually your high school, Aliquippa. And if for you guys that don't know, if you watch the DNC this week, the mayor of Aliquippa did a roll call and shout out to Aliquippa, and he talked about. I'm gonna let Mark tell you the distinction that Aliquippa has as far as their Hall of Famers, and I'll let you. What was that distinction for
Well,
Aliquippa?
Aliquippa is a football hotbed. I mean, we have put out more Hall of Famers than any high school in America. So we had Ty Law, Darrell Revis, Mike Dicker, Tony Dorsett is from Aliquippa. And what's really amazing about that is that I tell people you say all the great football players, but in the senior class of Aliquippa, I think this year they might have. This is a large senior class. It might have 70 students. They might have 70 students.
Wow, yeah.
We've won, I think, the last 3 state championships. In the last 10 years, we probably played for 7 or 8. I mean, we're just a dominant force. We should be a single A, the smallest schools in the state of Pennsylvania. We play up at 4A, and we're dominating. We haven't lost, I think we lost one game in the last 5 years or something.
Wow.
So it's a school that's built on sports. And in basketball, we won the state championship last year in basketball with 5 football players. Well, we do have one Division I basketball player last year. But we win with athletes, and we win with guys who have that grit and that determination that they're just going to excel, and you're not going to beat me. And that was just my attitude in sports, and that's what Aliquippa really represents.
That's funny. And it's funny, though, when I'm sitting there listening to you talk, you bragging on the Hall of Famers, which is something in itself. But I remember I Googled it, boom, boom, pops right up there. Most Hall of Famers out of anybody, in the country. And I think it's by far. But the fact that, okay, we talking Hall of Famers. How many Mark Lays is out there? You ain't in the Hall of Fame, but hey, you done made a heck of an impact, and as we said, doing quite well, and what we want to quote unquote call successful. So
yeah, and that's why I always tell people, I am not a football player. I'm not. I didn't make the NBA, granted, but what am I going to do? It's easier to be a doctor than it is to make the NBA. It's easier to be a lawyer it's easier to work on Wall Street than to be in the NBA. The executives on Wall Street make more than the NBA players. Make no mistakes about it.
Yeah.
Now, don't many of them look like us? And that's the sad part. I always tell people, in 1980, for every $100 made on Wall Street, people of color made 1 penny.
Wow.
In 2024, for every $100 made on Wall Street, people of color make 1 penny. It hasn't gotten any better.
No progress.
And that's my fault. That's people like me. That's our fault for not promoting financial literacy, for not letting our people understand that, for not putting more of us on the street. When I was on Wall Street trading and had my investment firm, I'm on CNBC and CNN, Mark Lay doing this thing. But it can't be about Mark Lay. It has to be about the greater good. And at some point in time, it has to stop. We have to start educating our people. We have to start encouraging our kids. Them same kids that we're saying, you are a great basketball player. You're a great football player. You know what? You will be a great trader on Wall Street and you'll make $1 million. You'll be a great hedge fund manager and you'll make $10 million. We need to pump them up with that as well.
No, you great. Hey, I love it. I actually used to do a presentation. It had all these heads. I know one of the credit card companies. It was African American, another large company. But it's several of them that are out there. You put up Kobe Bryant, everybody knows him. You put up one of these gentlemen, nobody knows him.
Exactly.
And then, to your point, you put up somebody mid-level NBA guy, everybody knows him. And you put up this guy, you say, who makes more? Everybody goes that professional athlete. And then, like you said, not even close. His salary dwarfs that professional athlete salary. And then we didn't even touch on the longevity. Professional athlete, there's a limit before it expires. You got a life expectancy. You get in one of these corporations, it's till you decide you're gonna retire.
Exactly.
So those are the things. But again,
but you know what you're saying too, and it's innate in our nature to be aggressive and to compete, right? When you're on the basketball court, I'm playing against JJ, I'm competing, man. You ain't going to come down here and just shoot a jumper in my face and I'm going to take it. I'm coming back at you, or I'm going to shut you down, or whatever the case may be. It's the same thing. It was the same thing on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I looked at the characteristics of the men and women who were traders. They were all ex-athletes or jocks that had that mentality.
Yeah.
Who better to excel in that atmosphere than us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I was a foreign exchange trader trading currencies, when you called out, you had to buy, $200 million against the euro or whatever the case may be. If one of the guys was trying to cover his own position and not helping you buy your couple $100 million, doing what you got to do, man, you went around that desk and you put your hands on them. We put hands on people. We was fighting. The guys in suits making millions of dollars. It was that competitive.
Yeah.
We excel in that environment, but we don't know about it, therefore, and we don't promote it in our own community. We don't tell these young kids about it, and so they don't pursue it.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Hey, OMV World. Hey, we gonna bring you back, man. We get our
Yeah.
stuff set up. We're gonna bring you back to speak at one of these workshops.
Love to.
Hey, we'd love to have you. Like I said, appreciating everything that you're talking about. Now, you talked about your highs and
Mm-hmm.
where you been. You to share with us everything that you had going on, and I'll attest because I think at the time, you used to handle the Virgin Islands money too, right?
Governor of Virgin Islands is one of my clients.
This
Absolutely.
cat, they would call me midweek. They hanging out, they kicking it because he got business, and then the downtime they hanging. I'm back here. I got to do podcasts. I got to coach, stuff like man, quit calling me. I can't come. But you was big time. And then we talk about financial advisors. A lot of people say, oh, he the top black financial advisor. No, I checked the record. He did one of the top, period, black or white. You was doing it like that. The lows, you say the dark days, needing prayer from both your mamas.
Mm-hmm.
What man, talk to us, man. What happened?
So I'm this $4.2 billion money management firm managing money for everybody across the country and globally, right? But part of that job is to you got to move in political circles. So I knew every governor in the country. I could sit down. I could call the president of the United States and set up a meeting. I had U.S. senators calling me about helping them, when they grilled or spoke to the head of the Federal Reserve, what questions should I ask them about inflation or about growth or about unemployment rates and stuff like that. So I had access to everybody. But when you have that type of access, it's very easy to, make somebody mad or do whatever the case may be. Make a long story short, I got accused of investment advisor fraud, conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, all relating to stocks and bonds. So if I have an office in Pittsburgh and I do a trade with a firm in New York City on Wall Street, that's considered going across state lines. So that's why they say mail and wire fraud.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, one of my clients, I did what's called a overlay strategy. I had a strategy for them to protect their portfolio against higher interest rates. The strategy went bad. The strategy lost $200 million. $200 million. Wow, you lost a lot of money, right? The underlying portfolio, though, made over $600 million. The client was, you did what you're supposed to do, no problem. It's like you buying car insurance, right? You have a car. You buy car insurance. You pay $200 a month. So you pay $2,400 a year. You don't have a car accident. Do the car insurance give you your money back? Absolutely not.
No, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what this was.
Okay.
But the strategy lost money, no question about it. But the overall portfolio made money. Nonetheless, feds come in and say it must be some sort of cover up. You're gonna take a plea. We're gonna send you to a camp. I'm not doing it. I'm not taking a plea. I didn't do anything wrong. Every trade I did was right. Da 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 da. I'm gonna fight you. Okay. We're telling you take this plea or we're gonna knock your head off. I'm not taking a plea because I ain't doing anything wrong. Okay. Go to trial. Make a long story short, I am not going to go to specifics of the trial, but with the trial, the jury said guilty. He lost $200 million. There's nothing illegal about that, but guilty. Okay. Judge, we sentenced him to 144 months. I looked at my attorney. I'm like, 144? Ain't no way I could do a year and 2 months. 100. He said, Mark, he said 144 months. 144 divided by 12. That's 12 years. They gave me 12 years, of which I did every day. Well, good time you do 10 and a half years on 12 years. But, when you're a big boy and you're in those lanes, you got to take the good with the bad. And like I said, I'm telling you, I've been home now for, I don't know, over 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. I tend to forget, believe it or not, that whole experience.
Wow.
But I'm home now, and I look back. You know what? That's where my Christian faith comes from. I read a scripture when I was incarcerated that said this guy had love for his wife, and he wanted her so bad. 7 years was as one day because of the love that he had for her.
Oh, wow.
My 10 and a half years, for real, believe it or not, it was because Miss Joyce was praying for me. My mom was praying for me. And, I went through that. I was playing ball that whole time. I was getting myself in shape. Spiritually, I was taking classes, theological classes. I just wanted to learn. I learned Spanish. I just wanted to make myself better because people always in there. There's so many cliches, but I said, you have a choice.
Yeah.
You could be bitter or you get better. I chose to make myself better. So I did that. People always say, you did 10 and a half years. I did 10 and a half years in the feds. I did. But,
And I didn't realize it was 10 years.
yeah,
Wow.
and I met some great, and I told people this too. I met some great guys of all ethnicities, great dudes. And to this day, a day doesn't go past that I don't speak to one of the guys who I was incarcerated with. Just great dudes. They made that type of impression on my life. And I thank God for them too, because they made me a better person. And I will say this, and then I'm gonna let you talk. But I will say this: 3/4, 75% of all the men I met who were incarcerated had no business being in jail.
Wow.
They were in there because they were trying to provide for their families. They may have done something wrong or illegal, but the motive behind it was not wrong or illegal. 25% was crash dummies. They belong in jail. But the other 75%, I'm telling you, given the opportunities that we have in life, given the opportunities to try to make a way through education or whatever the case may be, a trade or whatever, they would have never been in jail.
Wow.
And I mean that. 75%, 3/4 out of that, 3 out of every 4 guys in jail.
No, hey, definitely. I mean, you talking to somebody that overstands. I work for the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
These are a lot of the very things that we're trying to do here at OMB. We understand giving people, empowering folks, so that you don't have to go out there and commit crimes to put food on your table. Because it's funny that you say that. I mean, I can remember having discussions, and I'm from both sides of the track,
Right.
with folks that are judgmental on somebody and talking about this person being a drug dealer, that, the other. And you break it down and tell them, you realize that man goes to church. That man, his kids are taking piano lessons and playing white ball. They're doing all this stuff. Albeit you can look at it as wrong, no question, it's illegal, but they have figured out a way to, as you just said, put food on the table. That's the best way they can. Been turned down for jobs or getting a livable wage.
Yeah.
But like I said, those are things that we're trying to do with our platform, with our forum, is to provide people with options out there, empower them with knowledge, empower them with opportunity, so that we can limit the numbers that are in jail that you're talking about.
And for me now, that's why I love working on the street. I love trading bonds. I love trading foreign currency. It was a passion. I did it 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. I really did. I loved it. But what I do now in workforce development and my company, we do facility services for some of the largest companies in Pennsylvania, whether you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers or the University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, or whatever the case may be. I mean, I employ over 200 men and women, and a lot of them are second chance citizens. And we do everything from cleaning those facilities to logistically moving stuff for them. But I always tell all the men and women, I said, I've been there with you. So you ain't getting over on me, don't get me wrong, but I've been there. I've been, like I said, in a pen, and I've been in the White House. But I always tell them, the whole principle of this business is ABC. The first thing you got to do is get a job. Then we'll B, get you a better job. And then C, we're going to get you a career. And that's the principle. I don't expect you to come to me every day. Man, I'm happy to come to Acrisure Stadium and clean these bathrooms and mop these floors, whatever. I'm not, because that's not. But you got a job, and you showing everybody you have the discipline to come on time and do the things, ready to work, do the things you need to do. From there, we're going to get you in the trades. We're going to get you whatever your skill set is. We're going to get you a better job where you can excel on it. And from there, you're going to get your career. So the platform I have now is it's incredible because it's a very profitable business. I'm able to do well, but I'm able to help a lot of people. And that's the message I always tell people about business. There's nothing wrong with doing good and well. There's nothing. Doing good for people and doing well for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's been my whole platform now.
Got you, man. That's awesome. That's powerful. And I'll tell people this. I can remember keeping up with the trial, looking at everything that's been written and was wrote. it was like you said, political, clear cut case. I mean, there was all kind of people that experts in that spoke was like, this ain't never happened. This ain't right.
Never in the before in the history of the United States. And I like I said, I'm not on here to vindicate myself.
Yeah.
I'm innocent or whatever. I don't care. I did the time, and life moves on, and I moved on. But I always tell people, I got convicted of a conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud. Conspiracy. To have a conspiracy, what do you need? Two or more people, right? You got.
Yeah.
I'm a one-person conspiracy. No co-conspirators, no unindicted co-conspirators. But you know what? That's life. And I tell people, life ain't fair. God will vindicate me. I mean, I will get what I deserve at the end. You know what I mean? And while I'm here, I'm going to do the best I can to be a positive force for people. And sports is a great avenue to advocate. Financial literacy is a great avenue for advocating. Workforce development is a great avenue to advocate that. And I'm blessed to have be able to tie all three of those together. So, I'm not complaining. I'm not bitter. And people always ask me, "Why ain't you mad? Why ain't you must have did something?" No, I can't. I can't go back. I can't do anything about my past.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about tomorrow because I don't know what it's going to bring. All I can handle and do is right now in the present.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, that's what impressed me the most about you. Like you said, you have not said one word. You came out the same as when you went in. They laughing, joking, baby, bruh, this, that, the other.
Right.
And the people that say that or think that, the only reason I say that, hey, I challenge you. Go out there, look at the records, pull it up. It's out there. You can read for yourself. I mean, it's honestly, man, we was looking. Me and you was texting. When you was going to, I'm like, man, you ain't Gary, man. Come on, man. Like, hey,
Yeah.
guy got this, and man, everything. You gonna be good. I'm like I said, not going off what you say, doing my own research. I'm looking, man, everybody here said this ain't never happened. Ain't no way, but it did. And for you to come out and still, be acting the way that you do and carrying yourself, I mean, that's why good things happen.
Well, your brother Tracy is probably one of my best friends in the world, and I'm not going to say the word that I'm not politically incorrect word that I always call him.
Thank you.
But you know what the day I came home, you need a car. What you need? I mean, that's why I tell people this all the time. I'm so blessed. To whom much is given, much is required. Them dudes came, your brother, what you need, Mark? Y'all all called me. I mean, what's so funny? Kyrie Irving sent me a pair of his sneakers because his dad worked on the street when I was there. The blessings that I received and continue to receive in business and in life, I have to give back. Or I'm a total loser. And I mean that. I have to give back. And it ain't easy all the time. I told you I was late today because I'm like getting phone calls. You have a crew. They supposed to be here. They supposed to be there. We have challenges, but we're very fortunate and very blessed, and it requires us to want to give back, and we should give back. That's why what you're doing here in this podcast is awesome. I mean, you know what? You might not be making $1 million today, but you know what? It's going to lead to something that's going to be so rewarding financially and for the community. I mean that because when you're right, when good people do good things happen.
Man, I love it. I love it. Perspective, baby, perspective. Look, before we get out of here, we didn't had the highs. We didn't talk high school. We done been all over. We're gonna take it back to some good stuff. Talk to us. Tell us about the White House. Give us a highlight of because actually you just went.
Right. For the June, was invited for the Juneteenth celebration, and it was incredible. They had everybody from Kirk Franklin to Patti LaBelle, and oh my God, the list of entertainment was just incredible. But also, what was encouraging is like the Secretary of Labor and the stuff that we're doing in workforce development, trying to help these men and women, especially second chances and brothers and sisters coming back who need a job so that we can reduce this recidivism rate or get people not even going, like you said before. So it's just good to be in environments where you can try to affect change. And that's what I'm trying to do. So, fortunately or unfortunately, political players have a role to play in that. Politics is a dirty game, and we all know that. Oh, my God, going through this presidential election, we see it every single day. But it's a necessary evil. So I always use platforms, whether it's past President Obama and Clinton, or George Bush Sr. was such an advocate. Now, I'm from Aliquippa. In Aliquippa, 99.9% of the people are Democrats. I mean, if there's a Republican in the whole town, I don't even know who they are. But with that said, I remember George Bush Sr., being very helpful. I had the city of Houston as a client. I had Texas Southern University as a client. I had Shell Oil as a client. And George Bush Sr. was the reference that called and said, that's a great firm. Y'all should work with them. Republican. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, I really try not to get caught up in this Democrat Republican. So I try to look at that person, man, woman, and look at their qualities and say, you know what? That's somebody I would like to align myself with. That's somebody who could be helpful for me, and I could be helpful for them. But so I've always used that platform, whether politically, to try to promote the interests of my business or the people that I'm trying to help.
Got you. Okay, brother, you got any last words, any parting shots you'd like to say? Because it's a pleasure having you on, man. It's always a pleasure when you come to town.
Yeah, well, Fort Wayne is like Pittsburgh. It's real people here. You know what I mean? It's just real people, real loving people, real just family, and I always feel at home when I come here. And your family and your brothers and your mom and everybody they've embraced me, and the impact you had on my life is just incredible. And I would just encourage you to keep fighting the fight. When the light looks dim, it's a brighter light at the end of that tunnel. And I believe that. I'll close by saying I remember I was at Fort Dix. And I had been there for a couple years, 3 years or something like that. And a brother on the yards came to me and said, hey, young fella. I wasn't young, by the way. I was 40-something years old at that time. He was like, hey, young fella, how much more time you got? I said, man, I got like 7 years and some change left. He said, oh, man, you going home tomorrow, man. That ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was so positive.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. I'm like, damn, this dude is crazy. I still got to do 7 years. And he's talking about, man, he was smiling all happy for me. The dude that did like 40 years. So it's about perspective. Yeah. For him, 7 years is nothing because he had done so much. He's been incarcerated his whole entire life since he was like 17 years old. So when he saw me with 7 years, man, you got this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I learned that life is about perspective. Don't let nobody else shape your perspective. Your perspective is for you, and it can be positive. Make it a positive experience, like that man told me.
That's all right, man. And you're a walking, living testament of that. Yep. And like I said, never been more prouder of you than sitting here and listening to you share that, man. We ain't never talked about that.
Yep.
But that was that, man. That's perfect. But hey, folks, once again, we to that time. Fort Wayne up close. Like I said, never know who's gonna show up. We have a gentleman who is on top of the world. Like I said, one of the top financial advisors in the country. Understand that. Then went to prison for something that you heard out of his own mouth. He accepted responsibility. I'm speaking on the behalf. Went to prison for something had no business going to prison for. Coming out, you see this man smiling, laughing, joking. He done put things in perspective. It brings me to the adage, life is 5% of what happens to you and 95% how you react to it. He is the epitome of that. I appreciate you for coming, pulling up on us. Like I said, we're going to use you as a resource. We're going to bring you back into our community because, hey, you are a great resource, man, a wealth of knowledge, a walking, living example. Honored to have you on here.
Thank you.
But with that said, Fort Wayne up close, ONV, we out of here.